Welcome to the UCLA Anderson Drive Time Podcast. My name is Dylan Stafford, and I am honored today to be with a really special panel of Jamie Long, Bob DeLullo, Stacey Mercado, and Austin Carroll Keeley, four current members of our fully employed MBA program who are also all either active duty or veteran status members of our citizenry. And in honor of Veterans Day this year, Austin was gracious enough to kind of gather up the troops, so to speak. We have four of the five branches represented, and we really are going to offer what I hope is a wonderful combination of four great voices from our student body. And we're going to really do three things today. We're going to give you a sense of who each of these folks was as they came to UCLA, their background growing up, education experience, and especially their military trajectory that had them ever come to UCLA. That's the first third. The middle third, we're going to tell you how they're using UCLA to bridge their already established world-class training and leadership from their military time, how to transition that forward to create a new corporate chapter in their careers. And then finally, we're going to have a bonus round where we're each going to pause and have a little bit of reflection on behalf of Veterans Day. It's just, again, Austin, thanks for getting everyone together. We don't have the Army's not represented, so okay, oops. But we have the Marine Corps, we have Coast Guard, we have the Navy, and we have the Air Force. And I just appreciate you, Austin, for reaching out to everyone. Thank you all for making time for this. I'll let everybody reiterate where they are, but we are dialed in from Ventura, from Philadelphia, from Reno, Nevada, and from La Mesa, California. So we're all over the place, and I'm live here in Culver City. So, so thank you all for being here for this special edition with voices of FEMBA from the military point of view. So, Stacey, I thought we would honor ladies first. I know I'm Southern, so I know that's old-fashioned. You're not supposed to do that anymore. But we will start with you, if you would be so kind as to kind of take over and tell us about who you are and everything you'd like to let us know about you.
All right, perfect. So hi, my name is Stacey Mercado. I'm a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, so I'm absolutely honored to represent UCLA FEMBA 2022 as well as the Navy. So thank you for having me. So I just want to go through a little bit about myself. I was born in the Philippines. And then raised in Japan for 10 years. And then I spent my high school years in Jacksonville, Florida. So as you can see, I come from a Navy family. My dad was a surface enlisted, and my brother also was in the Navy as a surface warfare officer. I subsequently became, part of the Navy, got a Navy ROTC scholarship at UCLA. And graduated from UCLA in 2012 with a psychobiology major. After that, I became an E2 naval flight officer after I graduated. As you can see here, you see my brother's here and my dad here. This was my commissioning ceremony, and this was actually my first salute. So my dad saluted me, and that was my very first salute, and it was an amazing, experience to share with him.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, did you have a UCLA connection? I obviously see the Navy connection. How did you choose UCLA for undergrad?
My cousin, she went to UCLA undergrad as well as went to med school. And I think she used to work for UCLA Harbor as well. So I think that was more of the UCLA connection. I think I thought about applying to USC, but I heard it wasn't as good. I think I made a very good choice. So I'm a double Bruin and happy about it.
And from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way over here. That was okay. Yeah. Excellent. Sorry to interrupt your flow, but I was just.
No, you're fine. So after I commissioned, I went through flight school and I went through introductory flight training. And you can see here, I flew in a Cessna and soloed in it. That was my roommate at the time. And then I proceeded to, primary and then intermediate flight training where I flew the T6 and then thereafter the T39. And then at some point proceeded to go to the Fleet Replacement Squadron for E2s, where I learned my platform. And we focused less on actually moving the aircraft and more so on detection of aircraft or surface units. You can see here that I actually went to Top Gun at some point during my fleet tour with VAW 113. So that was absolutely amazing. Here you can see that I went through some survival training, and I think Jamie went through the same thing. We went through pretty much a survival, evade, resist, escape type. You get you're in the nature in the woods, and you're trying to figure out how to evade the enemy, and then at that point get captured and then try to escape that capture. So that was a very fascinating experience. One that I would not want to repeat. Um, while excuse me, moving on. I proceeded to Point Mugu with 113, where I did 3 deployments in a 3-year span. So it was almost like a bittersweet experience. You are absolutely busy. You're on 3 deployments, but you're also doing workups in between. So you're in and out of being home. So I was away for 2 years of the 3 years that I was with 113. It was a hard life being on the boat. But you share a lot of good experiences with the friends and pretty much my Navy family that I've made with 113. So like I said, an amazing experience. After doing those 3 deployments, Southern Seas, I did 2 Western Pacific deployments. I now am in a shore tour where I'm at the E2 C2 wing, so pretty much the training officer for all the E2 and C2 squadrons. So like I said, my operational tour was amazing. You can see here, this is kind of, you see the many different aircrafts that are on the aircraft carrier, part of the air wing. And this is my aircraft, the E2. These are actually my aircraft that I've probably flown in. I'm probably in there, so that's probably cool. But this is when we were on deployment. And this is the carrier with the strike group. So when we go on deployment, we're not just an air wing on a carrier. We're also in coordination with other surface units, and we comprise an entire strike group that goes out on deployment. So here you have me in the back of the Hawkeye. And what's amazing here was this is in 2017. These are these are actually the people I went to UCLA ROTC with. So this
Nice.
was amazing. Yeah. So Jordan Davis, he's a helicopter pilot. Collins, he was a SWO, I believe, at the time, and then Crystal, she was an intel officer. So we were all in the same boat on the deployment together. So that was really cool. So we had to have represent UCLA at that time.
Who had the flag? Who had the flag in there?
I believe it was Jordan. Yeah, we're so gung ho Bruins. So we actually watched a lot of the football season was spent on the boat. So we'd watch football, during that time, and I think he had that ready to represent.
Nice.
And then as you can see here, the welcome home, coming back from deployment, and at the same, it was a very good experience. Going on deployment, doing tactical operational things. At that time we got extended at some point in 2017 because North Korea were doing some testing with some missiles, and so we missed out on Australia. We were supposed to go on, to Australia and then ended up not going. But I did get to go to some very interesting places. I went to Korea, Singapore, and also went to Vietnam. And we were actually the first, it was the first time that a carrier has pulled into Vietnam since the war. So that was really cool.
Wow.
And that's a little bit about myself and kind of my experience being in the Navy.
Thank you. What a great start. All right. Thank you very much, Stacey.
Thank
All
you.
right, Bob, can you be comfortable to follow that? She set a high bar.
I know that is a lot to follow. Let me share my screen and I can dive in. I do almost want to set the record straight, and I'd like to hear your guys' opinion. But do you count the Space Force now currently as the sixth branch of the military? Like, if we're going to document this, I think we have to straighten that out first, right? So we've
They've got to
nobody
get at least
representing Space
they've got to
Force.
get at least a year under their belts first, right?
Right? Yeah. All right. All right. Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you guys invite me on this, and I must say that it's almost refreshing and empowering to hear all my students or classmates talk about their experiences and just to see the capabilities that are featured within our class. But as Dylan said earlier, I'm Bob DeLullo. I'm a veteran of the United States Coast Guard. I served from 2011 2015. I went in right after my undergrad experience, and I had an amazing time in the United States Coast Guard. It's one of the highlights of my life so far. And I was mentioning to Austin earlier that I'm actually thinking about going back in, so maybe this conversation could even spur my wheels to get that ball rolling moving forward. But in the Coast Guard, I was an operations specialist, and I'll go into what all that entailed earlier. But I do come from a military family. I actually wanted to just highlight my brother. Just came back from Qatar. He was in the Middle East for about a year. He just came back, and this is his family at the airport. I took that photo of about a week ago. He just got back. He had the strangest experience over there, obviously, because of COVID and things like that. But he's now back home, so we are glad to have my brother Joe back. So I do come from a military family, but as of right now, I'm fully a civilian. I'm even done with my inactive reserve, which is the 4 years that you do after active duty as an enlisted member. And currently, I'm the regional manager for our solar panel company. We are in wholesale distribution. We import from the Asian manufacturers, and we resell all across the US. And essentially, my career spurs all of my hobbies, right? So I'm a big hiker. I love hiking and love the mountains. And during COVID, I bought a cabin in a very isolated section of Pennsylvania where I'm currently living at. So most weekends I've been avoiding the big cities and have been totally renovating this house. That's a picture of me as I'm taking out the tub that I'm upgrading. So it's been a great experience.
Now, with your first year of FEMBA, were you commuting from Pennsylvania?
Yep, the whole time. I'm honestly planning on commuting throughout the whole FEMBA experience. I know right now we're online, but yep, I would normally take a few vacation days extra, go out to California, do some hiking, do some tours and stuff like that, and then Saturday and Sunday go to class, and then fly out either Sunday night or Monday. And it was a lot, but it's totally worth the experience. And yeah, UCLA has been great. It's been great. I love traveling, passionate about it. Traveled a lot in the military. I might talk about that. But yeah, coming to California has been a 6-hour flight to go to class.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And so I wanted to show this slide because I know the Coast Guard might be the least prominent branch. We're the smallest branch, about 50,000 members, but we have a ton of missions. And I had focused on search and rescue and port and waterway securities. Those are the two units that I was mainly focused on while in the Coast Guard. And my first unit, my first station right out of boot camp, this always makes people laugh, but I was sent to Oklahoma in the Coast Guard. Like everybody asks, how did that happen? And what coast is even in Oklahoma?
That's the Red River with Texas. Come on.
Yeah. I was stationed. Dylan, you actually might know where Salisaw is at. It's right on 40, right next to Arkansas. So I was stationed on the Arkansas River doing port and waterway security. I did not know what to make of that experience whatsoever. As a young 22-year-old kid, I was hoping to go to San Diego or Miami or Alaska and have the time of my life. And I got sent to Oklahoma. And you know what? I had a great time. So it was just one of the many experiences in the military that shaped my life and taught me to just take things as they come, make the best of it, learn from the experience, and when it's time to move on, it's time to move on. But yep, this is my first unit. For the most part, you slept and lived on the boat on the river, and you just went up and down from like Tulsa to the Mississippi, doing waterway security essentially. So it was, looking back, it was a great experience. I got to work outside all the time. Got really close with the other crew members, so it was something to look back on fondly. And then my next unit was actually Lake Michigan, and I worked out in Milwaukee, and we controlled the whole lake in terms of search and rescue, in terms of waterway security, in terms of marine pollution response. Those were our main duties. So got a lot more experience working at command centers there, interacting with all 22 units around the lake, and just learning how to lead a team of 20 more people. But it was a really good experience living in Milwaukee as well.
Hey, Bob, let me jump in and just say one of my favorite things about military units are their logos or patches, and that logo you guys had in the background.
Let me try to go back. Yeah, it's supposed to be Poseidon the Trident, but then I don't know how many of you guys have ever been to Milwaukee, but they're very into their sausages. So he's actually holding a sausage, and this is the Brewers baseball stadium behind him, actually. It's Milwaukee's very proud of themselves as their cuisine stands, but it's a good patch for sure. And so I actually stop here and tell a little bit how I transitioned into my current civilian career. And so I was working in Milwaukee. I was a little bit tired of the Coast Guard, as most people get a little bit military fatigued, and I was looking to transition out. Wanted to use the GI Bill for some more schooling, and just get into that next phase of my life. And I knew that I wanted to work outside because I'd worked outside for the most part in the military. I loved it, not being cooped up in an office and things like that. And I actually was introduced to the solar industry. I'd met some local business people. They were saying that, it's exploding everywhere. I don't have to tell, people that live in California this, right? You guys are the epicenter of the solar panel industry. So I eventually applied to Solar City to be a solar panel installer after I had departed the Coast Guard. And I've just worked my way up through the industry. Started as an installer. This is one of my first installs next to this lake. We put it on these people's home. They loved it, and I got this nice shot afterwards.
It's gorgeous. I want to retire there.
I know, right? Yeah. This is what I'm trying to turn my mountain cabin into to get it this photogenic. But so got into the solar industry. It's been amazing. And then I've just worked my way up, and now I run a distribution region. This is one of our warehouses and some of my staff with all of our solar panels and other equipment.
Is that a Pink Floyd t-shirt? Is that a Pink Floyd t-shirt?
It is actually, yes. I think this was like our inventory audit day when normally we're very stressed out and just have to bring everybody together and count millions of dollars worth of stuff, and hopefully we haven't lost it all throughout the year. But you can see smiling faces afterwards, so we did a good job that day. And that is really where I'm at right now, enrolled in FEMBA, working in the solar industry, and loving life. So I appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, okay. So we've, Stacey took us on a tour over towards Asia and Points Exotic, and you got us from Oklahoma to Sheboygan. All right. Jamie, where will you take us next?
All right. So when Dylan said, add your hero shots, I was like, oh, I can do that. This is actually what we call the hero shot. This picture is taken in the middle of T-38, where I trained at Shepherd Air Force Base. Currently, I'm serving as a captain in the United States Air Force. I'm part of the Nevada Air National Guard. And then I will just get into my kind of history and about me. Current job, I'm currently a C-130 pilot. I'm what's called a traditional guardsman, which means that I am closer to what you call the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year type person that they advertise on TV. What they fail to tell you is to be a pilot, you actually have to maintain your currency. So it's pretty much a full-time job. And when you're not flying, you're thinking about flying. I typically fly at least 2 times a week to maintain my currencies. Some people will fly more, some people will fly less. It all depends on the ebbs and flows of the Air Force. My civilian job, I'm currently working as a commercial real estate broker for Marcus and Millichap. I focus on net lease properties. So that's nationwide. Those would be like Burger Kings or Walgreens or DaVita dialysis centers, pretty much any commercial property where you have a tenant in there that's willing to pay all the repairs of the building, property tax insurance. They're an excellent asset for people in retirement. They're kind of similar to bonds, and they basically got like a 20-year lease left on them, and they're pretty safe depending on who the credit tenant is. Most people in my position who are a traditional guardsman as a pilot typically have joined the airlines. That's not something that I was interested in doing straight out of college. I always wanted to pursue higher education, wanted to be something entrepreneurial, start my own business. So I'm originally from Lincoln, Massachusetts. That is a picture of me at Fenway Park. Go Red Sox. I know you guys are all talking about the Dodgers right now, but I don't really care too much about this World Series. Went to University of Colorado at Boulder. Majored in mechanical engineering, minored in business administration. Went currently now UCLA FEMBA, part of the hybrid program, living up in Reno, Nevada. So that's my wife, our dog, and a picture of Lake Tahoe in the background.
Oh, beautiful.
Some hobbies that I have, I like to water ski, snow ski. I kind of combine a bunch of these pictures together. So along with snow skiing, travel, that's the picture of us at Niseko, and that's Mount Yotai in the back. And then recently, because of COVID, I got into golfing, which has been pretty fun. I told myself I was going to get in excellent shape during COVID, and instead I just ride around on a golf course as much as I can and don't really exercise much. And then obviously, general aviation is a really big part of my background. I originally got into flying. My grandfather was a private pilot out in Santa Barbara, worked for Raytheon, retired out there. And every summer I'd go out and visit him, and he actually paid for my private pilot's license, and I was pretty much just hooked into general aviation. And after graduating college, worked in mechanical engineering for a little bit. Worked for a flight simulator company that we designed flight simulators, and then also worked for a company that outfitted airplanes with supplemental type certificates with weather instrumentation. So we did a big project with the Thailand government, and that was a pretty cool experience, except I had just graduated in the recession, 09.5, December 2009, and jobs were kind of slim. I was contracted for most of those jobs and became really fascinated with business, kind of wanted to know why the market crashed, started watching a lot of CNBC and all of that fun stuff. And I realized that I want to do something in business, didn't want to necessarily be in engineering. So then I started looking for a place to go back to school for business, and then figured out a way to pay for it. So I actually applied to the Air National Guard, which is one of the best kept secrets, I'd say, in the Air Force. This kind of goes through my training timeline. So you get hired to a unit, you get hired to fly a particular airframe. So after interviewing all around, I got hired to the 162nd Air Fighter Wing in Tucson, Arizona, which is a pretty unique base. They are instructors only. They don't have the mission capable unit. So at the beginning, I knew very early on that I would have to get farmed out to another unit to get mission ready to go qualify in that airframe. So in 2013, after interviewing at a bunch of different units, I got hired there. It took about 8 months to get dates to go to officer training school, and then another 3 months to go to pilot training. I was fortunate enough to attend the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training, which is NJET, where we train not only with fellow National Guards members active duty, but we also get to train with members of NATO. So all different countries from Turkey to actually, so even though they call it NATO, we've got the Middle Eastern countries, the Saudi Arabians, Canadians, Polish, Germans. I had Germans in my class and Italians in my class as well. So the projection, some of this will look similar to Stacey's. It started out in the T6 Texan, then switched over to the T-38 Talon. From there, to go fighters, you have another track called Intro to Fighter Fundamentals. So after over a year of flying in about 6 months in the T6 and about 6 months of the T-38, you have another 3-month course of Intro to Fighter Fundamentals. You also, during this time, you have to go through centrifuge training. So this is a picture of me and my beautiful face at 9Gs. The centrifuge is that system that you see that spins around the room really fast. And it always looks really fun until you actually do it. And it's absolutely the most miserable experience that I've ever done. And I'm glad I don't have to go back. From there, I attended the F-16B course in Tucson, Arizona. During that time, we had shifted funds around, and I was having difficulty finding a unit to go to for my follow-on training. A lot of the places were places I was not familiar with living. Places down in Alabama had a unit, North Dakota had a unit, South Dakota had a unit, and I was interviewing all over the place. And I decided to open up where I was interviewing to more of a lifestyle thing versus kind of what the airframe that I was flying, because what they tell you is you can either choose location, mission, or airframe. You can't pick all three of them. Fortunately, with picking the C-130, I feel like I got all three. And actually, I interviewed with the Channel Islands Air National Guard, which is at the same base as Stacey, probably on the other side of the field. They fly the J models. And then I also interviewed with the, let's actually go back to the previous slide, interviewed with the Reno Air National Guard. Decided that I was a little bit more of a skier than a surfer. And when I went up there, I'm a big skier. So when I went up there, I actually interviewed with the guy, and he told me it snowed 2 feet up in Lake Tahoe. So I went up and skied up there, and next thing I know, we are switching it up, and I am attending my C-130B course in Rock, Arkansas. After that, we just got back not too long ago, it seems like just yesterday, back from a deployment as part of Operation Inherent Resolve, where we were stationed in Ali Al Salim, flying all over the Middle East. Some other additional training that we do that I didn't mention on this timeline: the centrifuge training, altitude chamber, the water survival and fear, the survive, evade, resist, and escape training that Stacey touched on. And then SOS, which is Squadron Officer School, and that's to get promoted to the next level of major. Currently a captain, the equivalent of a lieutenant in the Navy. So this is our current operations that our squadron does. Because we're National Guard, we have the unique mission of being able to be state activated as well as federally activated. So we were able to do the COVID-19 response. I actually took some orders doing this. They're non-flying orders, but I work with the Emergency Operations Center of the Air National Guard side, which talks directly with the Joint Operations Center, which actually ties in the Army National Guard and the Air Force National Guard. together with the state emergency responders, all the doctors and everything. And this is a picture from our COVID-19 testing. I thought we did a great job with that. You can see a National Guard member kind of directing traffic, and a pretty effortless job early on to get that testing out when needed. The other big portion of my job currently is just maintaining currency. So bottom left picture is tactical airlift currency training. Although we don't really do this when we deploy, we have a ton of airdrop that we do, and we train to it pretty much every day, fly a low level and do some airdrops. This picture in the middle is we were with the Army Rangers, and this picture was actually just taken the other night. They were doing hay-ho jumps, which are high altitude, high opening jumps at our drop zone. We have been very busy this season doing MASS training, which is the Modular Airborne Firefighting System. I know down actually at my in-laws place down in the Yorba Linda area, they're doing a lot of firefighting. So this is actually a picture taken by the Associated Press that I think was in USA Today of our plane and some fellow members of my squadron. And then obviously, favorite part of the job is doing some scenic flights over beautiful Lake Tahoe. And then I just have some pictures in the back. I'll talk about this more later, but here's some pictures of our last deployment to Ali Al Salim, my crew, me hanging out the back of the C-130 up the Pacific Ocean, kind of near Point Magoo. And then while I was deployed, we were in Erbil, Iraq, and I actually found this UCLA Bruins patch, which I got to rock proudly when I was out there. I actually had to defer. I was supposed to be class of 2021, and then with the deployment, I ended up deferring to 2022.
Yeah, that's pretty much. We had to admit you twice to get you here.
Exactly. I'm glad you guys kept me. So I'm excited to be here, excited to get on and pursue this MBA.
Well, before we move forward to Austin, like, what in the world is it like to go from an F-16 to a C-130? Like, if you have to compare it to cars, what is it like from a Formula One racing car to a bus? How do you reset?
Yeah, it's something similar to that. It's a whole different concept. So in the F-16, you don't do really much rudder pedals, landing plane, taking off plane. Plane fly is really easy, I'd say. The T-38 is a much more difficult plane. It doesn't have auto trim or anything. And you're able to pull 9Gs, which is not fun. A lot of dogfighting, much more high tempo environment, and it's a lot higher stress. Then going to the C-130, it's just, you're on the road with your boys. You're flying a great plane. It's like General Aviation Plus. I think it's pretty much like flying a big Cessna. So you've got a whole bunch of different things that you have to think about when you're flying in like low altitude operations. With the C-130, if you go up a box canyon, you actually have to pre-plan on how you're going to get out because you might not have the performance, especially here in the Sierra Nevada. Whereas the F-16, I mean, you can just pull straight up and use some afterburner on that. But yeah, it's just like flying a Ferrari or taking a big truck off-roading, I would say would be the comparison between the two. So whatever you're more interested in.
I totally relate to you. You know, you go from, the smaller planes, and you have like a fishbowl type view of everything. And my plane is the same way. We're actually called like the fat kids of the air wing because we're so big and we take up so much room on the carrier, and they actually make us launch first and then land last so we don't take as much space.
No social shaming here. No. Okay. We have our role to play, but we're going to get teased. Well, thank you for all of these tours. All right. So Austin, you're the MC of the day. You brought us all together.
Oh boy, and I always regret bringing on pilots because they're so cool and they have the best pictures and the most awesome stories. So today I'll be taking you guys to a much more, a very different world than the Coast Guard, and then the Air National Guard and the United States Navy. So I do not come from a direct military family. I had some grandparents who had passed away before I was born that were in the service. So the military was never something I thought about. I like these two pictures because you got kind of like hippie Austin here on the right-hand side. And so, it's, I like to show these two pictures because, on the right-hand side, you've got, a little bit, a younger, very idealistic, soon to be college graduate, who was fascinated with large systemic problems and ways you can mobilize young people in the country to address those issues. Obviously, that hair and that mustache are not in regulations. But one of the things that got me first thinking about the military was a question asked by a professor who's now a good friend and a mentor in a seminar he ran called The Ethics and Politics of Public Service. And the question was, why don't more Stanford students consider the military to be a viable form of public service? You go off and start your NGOs, you go work at social investing funds. There's a million ways they'll run for office at very high levels. They'll support, high level staffers, but they don't go and serve in the military. I think my senior year, we had 5 or 6 people who joined out of college. And it was a question that that struck me as interesting and important. And I thought about it for a couple of years. I wanted to keep the mustache. And eventually I decided that there was so much value in terms of the public service that you could do in the military, and that the perception of the military as this monolithic, orders-driven, bureaucratic machine in which you give an order and it's automatically executed just wasn't the case, and it provided some of the most incredible opportunities for leadership, for development, for mentorship, and for impact that you could get as a young college graduate. So after working for a couple of years in San Francisco, an HIV/AIDS nonprofit, I had to shave the mustache, cut the hair, and eventually wound up, commissioning as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. So I like the transformation. But I do miss the mustache. So, Bob, I see you there with the full beard, and it always I get such beard envy every time I see you.
And then
so out of breaks.
Yeah. How did you choose your branch, Austin? I mean,
so it's a great question. So when I was looking at the military, I really, I'm a very competitive person by nature, and I wanted to sort of get at the core essence of what military functions were about. And for me, that was really ground combat operations. You look at the history of warfare, and regardless of the advancement in weapons, regardless of the advancement in different platforms that we can utilize, there always has to be somebody on the ground, taking in a seizing ground. And I wanted to get involved in that. And the Marine Corps was, in my estimation, a small elite group of warriors, who were committed to doing that and have done it, over the course of their 245 years since they were founded in 1775. So I joined the Marine Corps with the expectation that I wanted to be an infantry officer. So infantry is ground combat operations. It's leading troops on the ground with your rifles, grenades, grenade launchers, machine guns, rockets, missiles, all that good stuff. And I was so pleasantly surprised. I went in, again, even though I had joined the military for sort of these idealistic reasons, I was a little skeptical about, who some of my colleagues might be. And what I found was just this incredible group of public servants who were so dedicated to the country, to the mission, to the men and women in their charge, that it continually upped your game. You had to be so good because the people around you were just phenomenal, personally, professionally, and as fine young Americans. So, this photo is me and 65 of my closest friends following graduation from the infantry officer course. It culminates after 3 weeks of training, or it's a 12-week course that culminates with a 3-week training exercise in 29 Palms, California, which is just a really beautiful place to train. And it was one of the highlights of my early career to accomplish this thing, which has an attrition rate of up to 60% for some classes. And there's me on the far right side, looking kind of blurry, but it is what it is. Following earning the designation of infantry officer, what you do is you head off to a battalion and deploy. And so I managed to make 2 deployments in the course of a little less than 4 years. The Marine Corps is a part of the Department of the Navy. And so we often talk about the Navy Marine Corps team. And so on my first deployment, we got on a Navy ship and we sailed across the world. And we did training in places like Guam, in Djibouti, in Kuwait. We had some excellent Liberty ports in Seychelles and Dubai and all these great spots. But the thing which culminated with was it was March 2017, and President Trump and then Secretary Mattis had ordered we would send Marines in as the first congressional ground forces into Syria to support the fight against ISIS. And the great thing about being on one of those MUs, it's a Marine Expeditionary Unit, is you never know what it is you're going to do. And so we were fortunate enough to be in the area to get that call and to go in, establish a forward operating base, and then start providing fire in support of the fight to retake Raqqa, the de facto capital of ISIS at the time. So we spent a little over a month there before we got relieved and then pulled out and then rotated back home. So it was a phenomenal experience, and I'm not in that picture on the right, but I flag it because some of the most important people in my life are. I had the true honor and privilege to have 45 Marines and 1 sailor under my command during that time. And I love, these shots. They were really resistant to taking these photos, but now you see them circulating on Facebook all the time. But these were guys, who, do the real work, who are out there making incredible sacrifices on a daily basis, doing some really incredible things, in both the big ways and the small ways, to accomplish the mission. And so, they're really the guys that, as we get towards Veterans Day, I really think about. Some of them do 4 years and get out and go on and do, other things with their lives, and it's really incredible. So my second deployment was also on a Marine Expeditionary Unit. This time it was based out of Okinawa, Japan. And so, we got to go from the desert in Syria out to actually some snowy ranges in South Korea, just a little south of the DMZ. And this time I got to be a company executive officer. What that means is I was second in charge of 176 Marines and sailors. And this is half of that company in Korea. My boss took the other half to Thailand for a large joint exercise between the Thais, us, and then a couple other countries. Really the thing that for me has been a hallmark of my career in the Marine Corps, and I don't think I could have potentially anticipated it as such, is just the word family is thrown around a lot, but you really do build these unbelievable, incredible bonds, with other people. So the photo on the right is me and then Gunnery Sergeant, now Master Sergeant Jimenez. This is a cool full circle moment because after I finished deployment, I became the deputy director at the recruiter school here in San Diego. And one of the instructors there was one of the Marines who helped recruit me and put me into the Marine Corps. And so this was just after he had re-enlisted. And so I got to actually re-enlist this Marine who had helped me, commission in the first place. And it's a really small Marine Corps, but it's those moments that, sort of crystallize what a beautiful place it is. Again, just, in the middle there, it's just, me and some of my best friends enjoying the Marine Corps birthday ball. We celebrated on November 10th. So this year, November 10th, with the 245th anniversary or birthday of the Marine Corps. And then I can't not throw in a picture of, me in the blues with my wife at our wedding. And again, the Marine Corps is just so integrated and so supportive as a family. We have this beautiful tradition of a sword arch, as you exit your wedding. And as you can see, they lower the swords and demand that you, a kiss to pass. And so even at the, one of the best days of my life, it was, my Marine Corps brothers and sisters who were there, guiding me through that, shepherding me into it, literally forming the gateway. And so it's just been such a phenomenal experience. And I've just, feel so blessed and privileged to be able to be a part of an institution like this.
Thank you, Austin. That was great. And Jamie and Bob and Stacey, thank you for those, pictures worth 1,000 words, and a whole slideshow is worth just that much more. Obviously we have a lot of military heritage folks in our program. We have a lot of people who don't know really even how it all begins. So I think the behind the scenes look, that's just really generous. And I appreciate you guys opening up the data banks of the photos there to show us what it's like to be a pilot, what it's like to deploy, what it's like to be sailing the high seas. So, and what it's like to go to Oklahoma, for God's sakes. I love that. I grew up on the Red River, right next to Oklahoma. So that's where you were. You've each received a world-class education in how to lead men and women in a military environment where the stakes are the highest and the noble calling of service to country. So, and now you're getting an MBA. You're all class of 2022. We're halfway through this journey. So, I think people would really love to hear, wow, with all of that, then what is the MBA? What is UCLA? What is FEMBA? How does it bridge you forward to what it is you want to create next? And there's been some allusions to it, but Stacey, why don't we start with you and just, tell us what you're building with your time at UCLA.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question we asked is, or you asked, is why Anderson? And I think, it's a simple answer. It's, one of the top schools, and it's, location wise, it's super convenient. And I get to be able to experience being on campus while still balancing my military life. I actually applied to UCLA only, so it was UCLA or bust. So that was either really confident or really dumb, but at the end of the day, it worked out for me. So I'm really happy that it did. But what I really, I learned a lot from being in the military, and I learned a lot of, leading people. We have a lot of soft skills, but from a hard skills perspective, I'm not an engineering background. I came in with a psychobiology major. Like, what are you going to do with a psychobiology major in the Navy as an aviator / NFO? What I wanted was, more of getting those hard skills that are more directly applicable in the real world. So, the core classes are amazing. You learn about finance and stats and accounting. As much as that was really, a tough thing to go through, it was very enlightening. But and I think everyone can attest here who have been on deployment. It's a hard life. It's very unstable, and it can be tough on the home life. So mad props to people who continue to do it. Me being away for 2 of the 3 years, as much as it was a good time, sometimes it was really tough, and I wanted more of a work-life balance. So I thought that what I could do is go get my MBA that spanned a lot of industries. And for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I really enjoyed more of the creative side of things. And some of my side jobs that I had in the Navy, they were a little bit more creative, and some things, sometimes I enjoyed a little bit more because it was something that was less tactical and less rigid. So I'm actually looking into getting into marketing. And it's an absolutely amazing thing with, on-campus recruiting, where it really gets you into a path and a more accessible path to transitioning. And it's amazing because I did like a King's Hawaiian company presentation, and they just sent me like this, like a box of, a bread, their bread, and like a bag. And I was like, wow, I feel so special, so that, the opportunities that you get and the companies that you connect with through Anderson is just absolutely amazing, and just the reach that you can get. So hopefully, this summer, I think I'm going to get out of the Navy next summer. That's kind of the plan. We'll see how it goes. I may go reserves and then try to do an internship with a company, and then hopefully maybe get a full-time offer. If not, try to do, full-time on-campus recruiting in the year following. But what I really like about just my timing with Anderson is just the setup for success upon my transition. And that was really important for me, was that I had a plan, instead of just coming out of the military and not knowing what I wanted to do. Having the option to go part-time where I'm balancing the military life, but going to school, it was really about kind of the setup for, something bigger and better, or different. I love my time in the military. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people. I think it's more of a different side of things that I'd like to see.
Yeah, and just as I watched each of your presentations, like what you had, the personal mastery that you had to establish, to maintain your own composure, and then the ability to lead others in the face of, like stressful environments, call it what it is, right? And like there's so much mastery that you put yourself through to get to where you get, as seen in the pictures. And then how do you translate that into now success in a next decade of my life, in a corporate, where as amazing as that prior training was, yeah, it's a different jargon, it's a different language, different elements of success, and so many transferable skills, but establishing the credibility, having people see you with new eyes. Oh, she can do more than all of that is great, but yeah. And so marketing is kind of arising.
Yeah, and I think because I don't have any marketing experience, having that OCR, that option really allows me to get more of the hard skills, hard experience, that maybe doesn't provide, in that industry. Obviously, maybe operational strategy is good with, with a military background, but not necessarily with the hard skills in the marketing realm.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else that you'd want us to know, sort of about, how it's going? Or I think I have a good view of it, but then I kind of know the program. Anything else to someone from the outside?
I don't know yet. I think it's easy because you go through 4 quarters of, core classes, and this is the last quarter we're doing core classes. Now we're going into, choosing our electives and choosing our classes and bidding. And I think what's the scary part is, you're getting the right classes that you want, or, getting the professors that you want. I think that'll be an interesting, looking forward. And I think it's become less of a, a path given to you, and more of like, hey, make your own way. So that would be interesting. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Build your own adventure, right? I mean, life is like that anyway, but surround yourself with resources and you can build a better adventure. That's great. Thank you, Stacey. So Bob, you're a little bit ahead in the sense that, you've already started and now you're thinking about going back to the military, but, tell us, in terms of your Y Anderson, what it is that you're building.
So why Anderson is a very important question for people listening to this from my story, because I'm in Philadelphia. I'm not close to Los Angeles at all. So how did I end up at Anderson? And how did I know that it's the right choice to be at Anderson? Several things, really. Where I'm at in my career is, I'm a middle manager, love the industry, have been leading people for several years now. And I wanted an MBA that can get me to the next level in the industry. I have the authority. And, and Stacey, you touched on this, I think Dylan a little bit too, but, you get the credibility to advance in your career from earning an MBA and, learning, how to operate a business, learning how to, negotiate, learning how to be profitable in any ventures. So when I started to look around East Coast schools, a few Midwest schools, then I looked at UCLA Anderson, I knew that would be the path that would allow me to earn the credibility, be successful. And it's been a great experience. So just going to a public Ivy has been amazing. It's been a better experience than I could ever think. And then throw on top of that, meeting classmates that are former HIV/AIDS activists that are now Marines. You know, who would have ever thought that, you know, a business school would have, you know, people with that background. You know, typically you think of business school as being quite competitive, and, you know, Anderson can be, but I've always heard that Anderson is a bit of a business school without the elbows, right? You know, and the Coast Guard is a little bit like that as well. It is the military, but it has a different, it has a different vibe a little bit. So I just felt Anderson was the right fit in terms of, you know, fit my personality, fit what I wanted to get out of, you know, my career advancements. And honestly, I got to come to Los Angeles, and who doesn't want to do that? And so next steps really are, you know, the doors are wide open earning this degree. You know, I can either stay advancing through my industry, keep running businesses, or, you know, running larger businesses, or I've honestly thought about starting my own business. And Anderson's given me a lot of those tools to do that I hadn't had in the past. I don't really have much of a business background. I've learned on the job as I've done, you know, in the military and then in my current position. So it's nice that Anderson has given me so many of those skills to set me up for success.
And do you think you'll stay in the solar renewable space?
100%. Yeah, it is engaging. It is challenging. It is rewarding. And it's, you know, in the military, I knew that I was making a net benefit to society, and I still feel that same way working in the renewable space. You know, there's just so many benefits to the industry, and it engages all of my interests. It's really fascinating. You know, construction, politics, technology, finance. I love it. The only downside of my career path is that I've avoided like the epicenter of solar. California is the birthplace and the hotspot. You know, I just haven't worked in California yet. So maybe one day.
Well, hey, Bob, you start that company, just come back. I'll be your first hire, man. Love to.
I hear you. Hired.
We just literally, my wife and I, we have, I think, 14 panels just put on our roof 2 weeks ago. So we haven't even officially switched over yet. So that's one of our COVID projects. And
awesome. Love to hear it. You have to get a battery next. Backup battery.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it feels like, oh my God, that's like a concrete thing that one can do that makes a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very satisfying. All right. And Jamie, how about yourself? I mean, you've also started your, you know, post-military career transition and with your guard status, but tell us, you know, kind of how you're using Anderson to build your next chapter.
Definitely. So I'd like to add on to quickly Bob and Austin. I just had some guy come to my house and try to sell me solar panels. And I told him as soon as my 30-year roof goes, my house was built in 1990. As soon as I start needing to replace that, I'm getting the solar panels put on. So why Anderson? It is basically a promise I made to myself when I was younger. As soon as I loved undergrad so much at Boulder, just really never want to leave, don't want to grow up, want to go back to school. My father, he got an MBA from a top tier school as well. And I saw how much that helped him first survive. His business that he started was really reliant on trade shows. So after 9/11, he had to rebuild his business. And then after 2008, when the economy collapsed, he kind of just said, you know what, I'm kind of over this. I want to pivot my life. And I think having that MBA program from a top tier school, he was much more marketable at an older stage of his life. And then as soon as I graduated college, I always wanted to go to Pac-12 school. Back in the day, we were a Big 12 school. So UCLA was the number one I wanted to go to. I was actually originally looking into the Master Financial Engineering program, very interested in just something on Wall Street. I thought all of that stuff was really cool and really want to get down to the bottom of why our economy collapsed and go from there. A reason for just getting the MBA, it's with the military background. I'm very happy with joining the military. I'm now about 7 years in, and I have another 4 years left on my pilot training commitment. That's typically 10 years after you graduate pilot training, so 12 years. From there, as a part-timer, I'm definitely going to do the full 20, make sure I earn those benefits that will last a lifetime. But it is to become a better leader, both in the civilian and military. I do have plans on wanting to do something pretty entrepreneurial. I don't know what that is. I'm kind of listening, keeping my ears open, listening to what everybody else is doing. And I know we've got a lot of smart people from diverse backgrounds in our class, and I'm sure like in our section, and I'm sure across the entire path. Always see the Slack channel getting blown up with different ideas, different surveys, different things that people are pursuing. So that's pretty cool. Just don't have the time yet. It is for the military, for anybody. It is kind of a checkbox. Oftentimes they go back and forth with this, but in the Air Force, to get promoted to lieutenant colonel, you typically need an advanced degree. That goes back and forth, but this helps do that. And it's not one of those online programs that the Air Force offers. It's something that I actually want to do. And then, yeah, just to pursue the lifelong learning, I just absolutely am fascinated with everything you learn. It reminded me of what I knew in undergrad as of the answers always out there, and it kind of points you in the direction of like where to look for that answer. And just being with such intelligent people, Anderson has a strong track record of researchers and just a great dynasty all around. I mean, everything from sports to people that are changing the world every single day. And then to kind of piggyback on what Stacey said was the military is kind of an unstable life. Just Monday, I got told I've got orders to report to Little Rock by next Monday. So we've got our flex program this weekend. So I'm trying to figure out how to get out there. They're not giving us a rental car. So get out there and not miss any of my class this weekend. So it's going to be another interesting weekend with that. But with doing the program, I hope that when I do transition out of the military, I do find some of that stability. And I think that the MBA program is going to help a lot with that.
Reno to Little Rock. Okay, all in a week's work.
Exactly.
All right, thank you, Jamie. All right, Austin, how about
Yeah.
you? What are you doing around here besides helping me put together these great panels?
Well, it's really fun to do that, and that's been one of the great things. You know, I echo the sentiments of what everyone has said here, in that coming out of the military, you have these incredible soft skills, you have unbelievable leadership and management training and exposure and practical application. But as I was looking through my skill set, I was recognizing, hey, there are some significant gaps in skills, and that an MBA would fill that with, you know, the core classes, about being exposed to incredible groups of classmates and professors and centers. And so I chose Anderson because I had just received orders to San Diego. They were for 3 years. And the round 3 deadline was still open. And I was like, hey, this would be perfect. So I actually did the same thing as Stacey. I applied to Anderson, and that was it. So thank you for admitting me. I was very grateful and appreciative. You know, and another part for me was that, you know, my wife, I was coming back from my second deployment. You know, I'd been married about a little over, just about 2 years, and hadn't spent as much time with my wife as I wanted. And so when I was looking for an MBA, I wanted to make sure I found that balance between, you know, really outstanding academic experience, but something that was close enough that I wouldn't have to, you know, spend, you know, multiple days a month, you know, out and away from my family. And so, you know, as I think several people have referenced, you know, the family is often the one that takes a huge hit and makes immense sacrifices, you know, so that we can serve, we can get to do things that, you know, we care about and are passionate about. But, you know, I wanted to make sure that I was being thoughtful and sensitive to, you know, the needs of my family when I was picking the MBA. And so Anderson just met all the criteria. I couldn't be more excited. And so while I'm here, I'm working just about finishing up the core right now, which is tremendous. And as I start to move into electives, I'm really interested in exploring technology management. And so I'll be pursuing that specialization, both to learn about, you know, some of the technologies that are shaping the world, but also try to figure out how do we ethically employ those in support of, you know, public goods and social objectives. Outside of, the academic realm, I've been involved with FEMBA Council. Last year as an internal rep for the 2022 hybrid section. And then this year as the vice president of hybrid. And that's been phenomenal because managing in a military environment and managing in a civilian environment are kind of different.
Two different things.
Yeah. And so it's been really great to, work with some super talented leaders. My manager last year was a woman named Darcy Hitt, who was tremendous and taught me a lot. And then this year, getting to work for FEMBA Council President Megan Roberts and the rest of her with her team has just been, really eye-opening and definitely pushed me and taught me how to lead in this different capacity and context. So it's been a tremendous experience.
Well, I can't wait to see what all four of you build, while you're here and then, after you're gone. It is a build your own adventure kind of school, right? I mean, our strength is how entrepreneurial we are, and that's the challenge of Anderson. There's no one way. There are many, many ways, right? And you're about to hit that big opening where you've completed fall quarter of year 2, and now we're going to bid. And it's like Melissa was saying today, I forget how many, like 40 plus electives that they're serving up for winter quarter. It's a good choice group. And then it's like FOMO. Oh God, which ones, what sequence, what's going to get me to, to next summer and to my third year and beyond. So, okay. So the final third here, and Stacey's got to actually go to class in a little while. We're going to make this all fit. On November 10th, the Marine Corps is going to be 245 years old. On November 11th, we celebrate Veterans Day for all the branches. So, these final words are really not about UCLA, and they're not about us. They're about people whose shoulders we stand upon to live in this great, I love it, United States of America, right? We're not perfect, but show me a better place to live. I don't know of one. I'm very proud of this place. And, we're going to elect a president. We're going to agree on the results peacefully, right? We're going to continue to be a leader in the world. And our military is part of how we get to do that. So in honor of Veterans Day, we're going to kind of just wrap up with Stacey. Will give you first choice, I guess, with your brother and your father. I mean, it's probably a little bit more personal to you even than to all of us, but this will be our kind of acknowledgement of Veterans Day 2020. So if you'd like to start us off.
I'd like to just thank all the past and present active duty reservists that are serving, the future as well. Like we talked about, it's a lot of sacrifices of the families. So, my dad did 30 years in the Navy, he was a master chief. And I think I kind of learned that hard life, but I don't know how he did it. I'm certainly not going to do it. So mad props to, and a special thanks to the people who continue to do it and people who continue to do it with families. I was single going through those 3 deployments, and I couldn't imagine having, a husband and children during all that time away. So thank you to all the veterans who make that sacrifice and live that hard life.
Thank you, Stacey, for leading us off. Bob, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, thanks for everyone that has ever served. My father is a veteran. My brother is active duty still. Both grandfathers are veterans, numerous other cousins and stuff. So I do come from a military-minded family. And in all the different roles that I know that everybody has had, nobody what was an outstanding hero or anything like that. They just did their job, and looking back, that they even took pride in that. So, I can't believe that I actually might say this, but I look back and I thank everybody that even just, was our paperwork person or was our supplier or the cook or every single role in the military has a valuable part and as much as people might not recognize it or realize that, every cog in the machine has a reason for operating. So, my thanks again goes out to every single veteran that served in any capacity, because you made the military what it is and you made it special.
Thank you, Bob. Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say the same thing. I really appreciate all my friends, all my family that have served and are serving. I'm actually the only one from my immediate family that's actually ever just enlisted off of their own accord. So I don't have the tradition within my family, but I'd like to call all the people that I serve with part of my family, and many of them have great traditions. Many people that I went to college with have also served in ROTC. Would also like to mention the ones that we've lost along the way. I think if you're in this profession, you definitely cross paths, and that's always sad. So I'm thinking of those families that have lost a loved one. And then just, I'd like to thank all the support mainly. America is one of the unique places that people really respect the military. When I was at Shepherd, we had the Italians, and they were just blown away with all the support that we got, whereas what they've told me is in Italy, they don't think of you as anything different than anybody else in their country. So I'd really like to thank all the civilians for the continued support, helping out what we do. And then also like to thank my wife for supporting me and being okay with me leaving for the next couple of months.
Thank you, Jamie. And Austin.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Jamie, I feel like your wife might be in the room. So again, thank you, Jamie's wife.
Thank you, Jamie's wife. We're sorry, we're keeping it from dinner.
So I'll give sort of a couple by name shout outs. So there were 3 people who were really influential to me when I was at Stanford and starting to think about the military, specifically the Marine Corps. Those guys were Biff Cornelius, Chris Clark, and Chuck Stern. So Biff was a year ahead of me, and he became an artillery officer in the Marine Corps. And then Chris and Chuck were enlisted guys, infantrymen and reconnaissance men, who fought in some of the toughest battles that we fought in Iraq. And so their example, their humility, their leadership really meant a lot to me. I have to say, to all like it's mind-boggling to me that I've been in 6 years now, and I've got so many people now who were in for 4 years and are gone, and they're veterans. But I've learned just an incredible amount, from the mentors and leaders that I've had, the peers that I came in with, who have since separated, but also probably most importantly, the junior Marines who put their trust and faith in me to make the right decisions, to employ them in a way that was going to accomplish the mission and take care of their well-being. And so for those guys, there's just eternal gratitude. And hey, since we're at Anderson, I can give a shout out to our organizational behavior professor this year for hybrid, Professor John Ullman.
Right.
Is an Air Force officer as well. And I think he did 8-10 years or so, taught at the academy, and then came out. And so it's tremendous to see veterans continuing to lead and serve and develop the next generation of leaders. So I'm just so grateful for all those types of people. And I'll also give a shout out. Marines, we've got a very particular sort of culture and attitude. And a part of that is, poking fun at the rest of the services, right? And so, at the end of the day, it's one team, one fight, I think as Bob said, there are just, everyone plays their role, and there's something that each of the services do, each component of the service does, and every single individual does to advance the overall mission of the United States military. So I'm so grateful for all those people who have raised their right hand, sworn the oath, and then done their service. So it's been an incredible group to be a part of.
Well, fantastic. I steal 1 minute here at the end because I want to thank a couple of friends from my life. I don't know if you know that a little bit of educational history, but UCLA is originally was a land grant college, and the land grant system was set up by Abraham Lincoln at a really, really down part of the Civil War, where it was just not even clear that the Union was going to hold. And in that really darkest hour depth of the thing, he had the foresight to sign the legislation that became the land grant system. So Alabama, UCLA, Texas A&M. Oh, what? Oh, good cue. But this is me. So I was in the Corps of Cadets. This is May of 1991. This is the final review. So Sean Boyd was in the service. Chris Cass was in the service. Dylan Stafford did not, but all his good friends did. Brady was an F-16 pilot. Eric Fagenbush, John Harlan, Jeff and Umberto. We three we did not pursue contracts, but these other 5 did. And then the guys who are not in this picture, Joel had already dropped out and become a Marine. He didn't want to take his money anymore. He enlisted in the Marines. And then our other buddy, James, left Texas A&M and actually went to West Point. So these are the guys that I went to college with. And there are 12 texts on my phone here. We still have a text chain that just goes and goes and goes. The 12, these are my best friends for life. And I got them out of, as a preparatory military. It wasn't the actual military for me, but it was for 7 of the 10 of us. So, I just want to say thanks to all of my friends who've given their lives to being part of the military. So for everybody who listened today, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for honoring us with your listening of this. Then thank you for you guys, Stacey, Bob, Jamie, Austin. It's something generous to talk about yourself in person, put your life out there in pictures and in words. Stacey, we got to get you to class in 12 minutes. You got to get some food and get online. But for everyone from Ventura to Philadelphia to Reno, Nevada to La Mesa, California, and all 4 of the 6, or no, we're not going to count the Space Force yet. Okay, we're going to make them go a year. So 4 of the 5 current established branches of the U.S. military in honor of Veterans Day. Thank you for telling us your journeys before Anderson. Thanks for helping us get a sense of what you're building while you're here at Anderson. just kind of coming up on the halfway point. It's going to be great to see what you create the next year and a half. And thanks for your words and appreciation for everybody who's been a veteran in all of the branches of the United States military, because it is part of what makes America special. It's an opt-in, volunteer, by choice, highly ethical, highly integrated. It's a remarkable human entity, human organization. There's really not much that's ever been like the U.S. military. You guys are the heart and soul of it. So thank you for your service. All right, and tune in soon. We'll have another drive time. I have no idea what it's going to be about. It won't be as good as this, but we'll do our best. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan.
Fun.